Welcome aboard, all you wonderful groomers, pet stylists, and canine cosmetologists. You found the Traveling Groomers Podcast, where we discuss lessons learned from mobile and house call grooming. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Bear Anthony. Any moment now, we'll be joined by my co-host and friend, retired mobile groomer and educator extraordinaire, Mary Oquendo, and very likely a special guest to help us chat about all things grooming, grooming industry related, and just plain fun digressions that I will totally wrangle back to topic. Grab those travel mugs and climb aboard to see where today's topic will bring us. Let's roll! Pet Edge is your provider for professional grooming supplies at great prices. Check their website often for new products, sales, and special offers. For a limited time, save 5% off your order with promo code TRAVELER5. Find what you need to succeed at petedge.com.
Woohoo! Okay. Pet Edge is one of our new sponsors.
I love it. That was a very nice commercial. That was very pretty, Chris. I like it.
Okay, so we have a guest today.
Hello, special guest and Mary. Although, Denise, I feel like we see you so much on the live streams. Once again, do you count as a special guest?
I'm always special.
Well, you're always special.
So I'm told.
But it's the guest thing.
Just kidding, yeah.
All right, so.
Oh, wait. Let me do my thing right in the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 291, recorded on February 12th and will be airing on February 26th with special guest Denise Heroux.
So, hey, Denise, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Pretty good. I mean, Denise is honestly one of our favorite people. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
She and I will be roommates at quite a few trade shows.
I know. I'm excited.
So we're going to be at Tacoma, and we're going to have a booth. Hey, can we talk about that yet, by the way?
No. We're still not in that phase yet.
Ooh.
So we shall see. Yes, we're still not. It got a little backed up, but we do have a product. I can talk a little bit. It is a product launch. It is an actual grooming tool. It is outside of the realm of the ambitious groomer and seminars and speakers. It's an actual product.
Wait.
So
I haven't gotten one to test yet, is what you're saying.
Correct. Well, that would be why I can't talk much about it, because I don't have my prototypes yet. But
okay, all right, fair.
So we had to get lengths and stuff, and I had to do some finalization. But it's a really cool product that I think that actually I know it will save safety for me on a business owner level. It will save the stress of safety being an issue. And it'll help a ton of groomers out there be able to groom safer. And I can state it's a loop. It's a new grooming loop that has not been made before. So, yeah. So I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
All right. And so you guys will have it by Tacoma.
Fingers crossed, yes. If not, we will have prototypes, and I will most certainly be able to start promoting. So, yep.
So Denise and I are not only sharing a hotel room, but we're sharing a booth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're pretty excited about that. I can't wait to see it.
I know.
Okay. So the reason we asked her here today, we talk a lot about grief when it comes to like clients, pets that we lose. But one of the things we don't necessarily talk about is the grief that's associated with the loss of a friendship, of a loss of an employee, a loss of somebody trusted. Okay. So this is a job thing, all right? But also just simply, I mean, there's no getting around it, all right? Current climate in the United States is one that is very divided.
Yeah.
Okay? And people are losing friends over this as well. So we're going to touch on all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Denise, what prompted me saying, hey, you want to be on?
Well, I just recently had a loss of a friendship who is also an employee and now ex-employee. And I've learned, and I want to throw this out there to anyone who's listening, because I'm really big on putting up boundaries. So we all know this industry is filled with people pleasers. And the minute I started putting up boundaries to protect myself is really when you see who your true friends are and who the true relationships are. So this most recent one was a receptionist that was with me for 6 years, was a part of the family, did things outside of, and abruptly put in her notice without warning. And the way that it was delivered was very hurtful. And Mary noticed on Facebook, I made a comment about just crying all night, and she called me the next day to talk about something else. I can't even remember what it was. And you asked if I was okay, and I just started crying all over again. This go around, because I've had a lot of losses as I've been working on myself and working on my boundaries and being a healthier version of me. This was probably the latest, but I've been through probably 3 really big losses in the last 5 years through all of this. And I knew I was just grieving a relationship. The first time it happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it took me out for about a good year into a depression and stuff like that, because I had no one talks about the loss or the grieving of a friendship.
Especially when it's hard to define. Like if the person dies, or like moves to, Antarctica,
Mm-hmm.
that's a little more acceptable. But when it's a loss of a friendship, it's not talked about. It's either, oh, get rid of toxic people and you're better off without them. But it's not always that. And even if it is that, there can still be grief involved, because even though you mentally recognize that they were a toxic person, they were still your friend for however long.
Yeah,
it's still the loss of a friendship, even if it's an idealized version of that friendship. And
my first big one was in 2019. It was my best friend of 10 years, who was also my sister-in-law. She married my brother-in-law, and still family to this day. And I still have, but it was a huge falling out. And that was the first time I ever could put grieving to a friendship, because it was so abrupt, and I didn't understand it. And I think that's probably the other hard part too. We don't understand why these things happen. People come in and out of our lives, and we just want them there. But, I still hold space for people. I still care about them. But so that one took me a long time to finally move forward.
Okay. And I think to some degree, whether it's a friend or family, I mean, I don't know so much if I've lost friendships as more or less drifted away, but I've got family members who are not dead, right? But there's zero contact with them. I don't want contact with them. And as far as I'm concerned, they're gone. They're gone. I mean, which is a hard thing to do, because you know what, especially friendship that maybe you've grown up with them. So, you grew up with your brother. Well, I got 3 brothers. Well, only one I keep in contact with, but you grew up with them, and so there's always that, what is it? Is it the movie, The Ties That Bind?
I don't know that one.
I don't know that one either.
I'm going to have to look it up.
Okay.
But so there's that thread connecting us. And that when I do think of my brother, the one that I don't have contact with, it is from a place of grief.
Yeah. And I also have a friend like that who was in my wedding party, like I knew since grammar school. And it's one of those, it was not the healthiest of relationships. Yeah. And I when you said you hold space for them, I'm like, oh, that hit me because I miss what I thought we had.
Mm-hmm.
I miss what I thought we had that I don't know if we ever had. And I know that I can't reach back out, and I know that I shouldn't, and I know it's healthy, but it still hurts. It's going to be a place of grief forever, especially since I don't think they'll ever understand.
Mm-mm. I broke cycles. So it was always, even with my best friend who, 6 years ago we had the falling out. It was always this cycle. It was almost like a yearly cycle. It was, we were fine. And then all of a sudden I did something that pissed them off. And then I didn't even know what it was. Right. So it was more like almost like I was accepted for who I was until it gave a reason to be mad at me. And then they would walk away and just stop all communication. And I would be the one who would be like, oh, this is so silly. I can't believe we're even doing this. So much time has gone by. We can just get over this. And we would just I would reach out, and bygones were bygones. We never discussed it. And this happened for years, and then finally I was done being that person. And it's funny that you say the whole, maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. And I was the one holding it together. And when I stopped doing that, it just didn't exist. And I changed the game.
You mean when you stopped being the last resort, and the one that you call, that they could always dump on because nobody else was answering their calls?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not familiar. Not familiar at all. Not familiar at all. It is 100% button time. But we'll be right back. I love being a house call groomer, but I hate doing laundry or worrying about asking my clients for fresh towels. Raypet has solved those problems for me with the Wet Pet disposable towel. Taking up much less space than traditional cotton towels and easy to wring out and reuse, these super soft, comfy, absorbent towels eliminate any cross-contamination concerns between pets. And now their new smaller washcloth size can even help those sensitive eye areas. Great for cleaning out wrinkles gently and thoroughly. Need to keep water bowls for your clients on hand that are easy to disinfect, but hate all the room traditional clanky metal bowls take up? Or just have a very active pet? Their collapsible silicone bowl comes with an aluminum D-ring hook that can be attached to your pet's leash or anywhere else in your van for easy storage. You can get one by itself or in their handy travel kit, along with a set of 3 tick removers and 1 small wet pet towel. So stop by their website to check it out, raypet.net, and tell them the Traveling Groomers sent you. Why I gave my dog a noisy toy in the mid-commercial, not sure, but he waited until we were done, so that's cool. And we will, in case anyone is wondering, and they made it this far, what this has to do with grooming and why we're talking about this, I just wanted to touch on for a minute, since, this is a problem in small salons. Like, this was someone who was part of the family, who was part of the crew. When you're in a small salon where you work for a couple of years, it's tight quarters. We're working with living things. You get close to people. It becomes an issue.
Yeah, that's all we have. Like, we're in this together, right? Our day to day. We all worked the same 40 hours. We all knew each other's any problems that arose throughout the day. We could help work them through. Like, everyone could understand each other. And as far as being an owner, that it's really easy because they listen and they know what's going on and stuff like that. And I have to say, I want to also throw out there, though, as I get older and they get younger, I don't have that. I have nothing in common with them. So I don't have a desire to hang out and have those unhealthy boundaries. But I found out, we can give a part of ourselves, but we don't have to give up all of us. And I gave up all of me for that. And it bit me.
Okay. I want to make mention of that. this is still a grieving process.
Mhm.
So those stages of grief, it applies here.
Mhm.
Okay. The depression, this is my fault and I could have done something better.
That's anger.
Yeah.
That's part of it, anger.
Mhm.
So you're going to go through the stages of grief. All right. One thing I like to make mention is that depression, there's a difference between being depressed and depression. There's
Correct.
totally different things. Okay. You can work your way out of being depressed. Can't easily work your way out of depression. Usually that requires a little bit of interference by a medical professional or clergy or something, social worker, to help you get past that. Depression can totally color your world.
And one can lead to the other.
Oh, yes.
It's absolutely possible that you can have I'm just depressed today. I'm having but if it's triggered by something and it doesn't go away, like it can absolutely lead to something that you need to talk to a professional about.
Need intervention on that.
Yeah.
So now, small business employees. So I guess my question for you as a business owner is this, if you notice this within your place of business, the business owner, what would you recommend that you do? Or maybe some of the mistakes you've made in the past?
As far as getting to the point of being so, like letting people in, or what?
No, I mean your employees.
Okay.
Keeping an eye on your employees and seeing if somebody is a little depressed and keeping an eye on that.
So one cool thing about my traumatic past experiences and my alcoholic family, I'm very hypersensitive to shifts in people's emotions or even just their being. I can really pick up on that, and sometimes more than what they know. I can see it before they do. So I do regular check-ins, or if I really see like it looks like someone's struggling, I will pull them in the back, and I'm very factual. Like, hey, I've noticed that these things have changed. Is there something going on? Because I don't ever want it to be like, oh, you're being mean to everybody. What's going on? So I want to open up that conversation and be a safe place. Be like, these are the things I've noticed that seem off. Are you okay?
Yeah, you can't exactly walk up to somebody and be like, why are you being such a bitch today? Like,
even though I have to rein that back. Sometimes that is, I am. Everyone's like, you're not that way. I'm like, no, I am. I've worked really hard on myself in the last few years not to be that blunt, direct person with especially the employees, because it's not well reciprocated. So yeah, no, yes, finding that delicate balance.
Right. So you made a point about your traumatic upbringing. And all right, so here's the thing. I grew up with an alcoholic father too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So sometimes I think when you have that trauma in your family, sometimes it's easier to see it in somebody else, because you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly how she's feeling.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking about how you walked away from like your family. I actually found it easier because of the family that I grew up with. It is easier for me to actually walk away from family, and friends hit me harder on a grief level than a family level.
Yes, because when this is the most effed up backwards ass thing, and it seems backwards ass to normal functioning people, but I'm like, because where my brain went is, because you're used to your family letting you down. They're your family. That's what they do, which is, I can recognize is backwards, but it's the truth, because that's how it is. So when it's someone you have chosen as family, it is much worse, because my father had quit drinking by the time I came around. But there was There was definitely something there. My sister who passed had a drug abuse issue. Dad had substance abuse issues. I'm convinced my other sister does as well. And so, yes, these are the people who, the ones you should rely on the most are the ones that are going to let you down. And you're just, and before anyone out there was like, oh, it's, nah, don't awe at us. It's just our normal.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel so much better about myself when I'm not dealing with one brother in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that was easy, but honestly, I didn't do it until both my parents passed away.
Oh, it's way.
You get everyone who's like, oh, it's just, or it's family though. You have to. I'm like, no, that's not how it works in my world. Nope. Sorry.
And it was actually, it's how you know you've come from an effed up background is when a parent passes. And in my case, all of my siblings were half siblings and we had our dad in common. So when a silver lining to one of your parents passing is, oh, hey, never have to talk to XYZ again. it's jacked up. But let me, we'll be right back. We'll figure out where that track was to get back on. Are you feeling stuck in your mobile grooming business? Unsure about investing in a grooming vehicle or struggling to make your business thrive? Whether you're just starting out or looking to expand, the Mobile Groomers Bible is your ultimate guide to success in the mobile grooming industry. With decades of experience, Mary and Beth, leaders in the field, cover everything from starting a mobile grooming business to planning for the future. Let them help you take your business to the next level. Get your copy at positiveed.com/books.
My husband's the same way too. He's got 3 sisters, one he keeps in contact with, and the other 2 he has no contact with. One for a really, really, really long time, and the other one recently after his mom passed. And you know what? Your mental health is really worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who's listening to this and thinking, yeah, well, you know what? My family is really effed up and I would like to, break free of them, and everyone's going to think poorly of me. I'm not going to think poorly of you.
No.
You got to do what you got to do.
The only people who are going to think poorly of you, there's 2 kinds of people who will, and no, it's a legitimate worry, but there's 2 kinds of people who are going to think poorly of you. One of them is the people you're cutting out, who are the narcissists, who are the problem, and they're going to think poorly of you because all of a sudden you set a boundary and they can't use you anymore. And I don't think we should be concerned about that. Mm-hmm. And the second type of person is harder to write off because they are the functional. They're the ones who have not had those experiences, who've not had toxic families. And I want to say the Norman Rockwell people, but I don't want to be derogatory towards these folks because they're blessed. They're blessed and they're lucky, and we still kind of need them in society. They're an important part of society, but they're harder to write off because they just don't know. And that's when you use the phrase gently, bless your heart, I'm glad you don't understand. I'm glad you don't understand. Mm-hmm. Just say to them, I need to do this for me to be healthy and safe. And if this wasn't my family, and outline a situation, say, my friend did X, Y, and Z. And if they go, oh, well, you shouldn't be friends with them. Go, yeah, well, that was my family member who did that. Now, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, don't worry about what other people think. Do you?
It was very hard grieving. And this is why like Mary even said, she's like, when you're ready to talk about it, I'd love to do an episode. And it was so eye-opening. I think, well, because we're in an industry with people who are filled with traumatic pests, and that's why we'd rather work and gravitate towards animals. We're constantly like, people who go to therapy speak a different language, right? Like you can always tell someone who goes to therapy and we speak different languages. And as we work on ourselves, I also believe that I don't want to say a higher turnover of friendship, but like the people who move in and out of our lives can be, I think, greater as we work on ourselves. And it was a hard pill for me to swallow to lose a friend. And people don't talk about it. And it's so important that it blindsides you. You don't understand. You most certainly question, why me, and what did I do wrong? And the self-loathing aspect of all of it. I think it's harder to get out of that funk with. And it's so important to talk about, especially Mary brought up the way the world is currently.
Mm-hmm. So, but getting back to this specific one, all right. So how did you get, I'm going to say, how did you get past it?
No.
Deal with it.
No, I've learned how to I allowed my emotions to happen. I also knew that no matter what, there were actions and things that were done that would never go back to the way it was, even if we were to talk, right? Like it's just damage was done. So it was really easy for me to say like, no, so I felt all the feels. I just allowed myself to go through it. I went through an anger period where I was talking to one of my friends. I'm like, F this and F that. And, the whole thing. I went through, I would cry on and off for about 3 or 4 days. So I've learned how to lean into it and not away from it.
Okay. That's a really good point, because when you don't address it, that's when it bottles up. So that if you're depressed and you're not letting it out, that's the depressed that ends up in depression.
I'm not going to make a honeymooners reference because nobody will understand pins and needles, needles and pins. A happy man is a man that grins. But we had a movie all picked out for Valentine's Day because we thought it was about one thing, and it's called Your Monster. And like we watched the trailer, we read the description, and we're like, oh, cool. Like, supernatural romance. Right up my alley. Let's watch this for Valentine's Day. I can't say too much about it because anything I could say about it would be a spoiler. I'm just going to say that any of your emotions, including rage, including, acknowledging that someone treating you poorly is not okay, then yeah, the ending of the movie wouldn't have ended that way if someone hadn't repressed her rage her whole life. Anyway, it just leads to bad things, and it could be an extremely bad thing, like an external acting out, like people snapping. When you hear about people snapping, they've repressed their rage and their sadness and their, all of their emotions for too long.
And the Michael Douglas movie.
What was that?
The Michael Douglas movie. And I'm going to go, you keep talking, I'm going to go Google that for a minute.
Oh, okay. But it's not good for you. When we talk about stress and depression and burnout, a lot of that is repressing our feelings. And as a female-dominated industry, I think, and I'll address men after the commercial break because I don't want to leave them out of it, because men and women repress different emotions in different ways. But as a female-dominated industry, a lot of us have been reared to be nice and to be the people pleasers and to be accommodating. And when we don't set those boundaries and when we repress our feelings of hurt when people treat us badly, it ends up never going well.
So
It never goes well.
This person that I had, you know, that this, I don't know, at the time it wasn't even falling out, but this person who I lost, I started building healthy boundaries, and actually I had found out something that bothered me that was said about me. And this is, I want to throw this out there because I'm really, after all of this, I really want to get into like people pleasing when it comes to like seminars and webinars and stuff, and actually the toxicity behind people pleasing, but I digress. So I actually stood up for myself. And by standing up for myself, I actually went and faced it head on and asked if this was said. And I changed the game. So I asked if this was said, or what was the other thing? And I told that person how hurt I was. And because I allowed to get hurt in the past when I've heard this, and I just brushed it off, right? But really passive. I don't want to make any waves. That's okay. Blah, blah, blah. I actually faced it head on. And that's actually when she downward spiraled. And this all came a month later. But what I want to state is I also have a manager who we are learning each other. And there was an instance that bothered me, and not that she meant to bother me or anything else like that. It was something that really bothered me. And I didn't realize it was bothering me until I noticed I was seeing her and she was just frustrating me by just looking at her. And I'm like, there's something wrong with me. I'm like, there's something, right? I'm like, there's something wrong with me. So I finally actually had this realization that she allowed this other person to her last day to say things that weren't true. And she did it out of lack of conflict, right? She didn't want to start anything amongst everybody. But it really bothered me that she allowed this behavior to stay and could have like shipped her out. Anyways, but here's the really cool thing. The right people will actually be receptive of your change and your feelings, because I went to her and I said, this really bothered me. And she processed it for a few days. And now our communication is wonderful. So people, you can't control how people see it, but you really will find out who's meant to be there. And she took it and not took it personal. And now we're growing.
So the movie I was thinking of is with Michael Douglas, and it's called Falling Down. And if you haven't watched it,
I love that movie.
I recommend. So here is this middle-aged guy. He gets fired from his job. His wife is divorced him. And it's just, he's heading over to the birthday party for the daughter. And it's just like that one thing that was just too much. The car breaks down. Okay. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back, not processing any of this going on. And then it's his journey as every little thing now bothering him. And now he's acting out on every little thing that is bothering him. This is
why you don't repress. And I'll cover this before the commercial break then. No, we got 15 seconds. I'll be right back, and then we'll talk about how men and women repress things differently. Pet Edge is your provider for professional grooming supplies at great prices. Check their website often for new products, sales, and special offers. For a limited time, save 5% off your order with promo code TRAVELER5. Find what you need to succeed at petedge.com.
And I just want to correct the coupon code. It's TRAVELERS5 with an S. And you're muted.
Okay, I will go double check that email.
Because then one of us got it wrong, because they said TRAVELERS5.
One of us has got it wrong. Let me see.
So just try both. If one doesn't work, try
both. If one of them doesn't work. Because I sent them the copy.
All right, so moving it along anyway.
Okay, no. And I'm not saying that men don't repress, because men are having a problem now, because for years they were told, be strong, don't show emotions, be the strong, tough guy. And then they get grief they get shit on for crying if they show emotion, because God forbid. And they also get shit on for not being sensitive enough for their partners. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is, yeah, holding on to that and repressing that is not healthy. And yeah, there's reasons men have higher instances of heart attacks and stroke than women do. And I think that's a huge part of it, frankly. So yeah, and then that basically falling down, the guy kind of went postal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But did he wind up at his former workplace, or was it just like the world?
You know what? I don't remember anymore, but it's a movie I will go definitely watch again. It was a good movie. It was one of those movies that, you're thinking this is this poor schmuck, okay? And he's just losing it. And there's so many things that are like annoying in life. Mm-hmm. And you're thinking, that was the thing that set him off. There's why there's like so many jokes about.
But it wasn't even that thing. It wasn't about that thing. Mm-hmm. It was about all of the repression before that.
Yes.
And all of the things he was hiding and all of the pressure he was carrying. And he was hiding the fact that he lost his job, because that's one of the issues men have, is they have all the pressure to be this strong, tough provider, and they feel like they lose their value when they're no longer able to do that. I'm not really equating these things, but it's kind of similar when similar enough to, like, if a woman is all this time she's like, oh, I'm going to get married and have a child, and oh, well, that's not happening for whatever reason, because a lot of our sense of identity is tied into our certain roles that we are expected to fulfill as tied into our gender identity, which is stupid mm-hmm. and shitty, mm-hmm. but it exists. So basically, I didn't want anyone to think, because we do have some male listeners, and I definitely don't want them to think that they are excluded in that, because they have their own set of things that they're not supposed to show. And this could be one of them. Right. I think this is definitely one of them, because if they have somebody they feel really close to, because they've been told all their lives they're not supposed to show emotion, how are they going to process the grief and the loss of this friendship?
Yeah.
Rage rooms. Right?
I was just thinking about that.
I was reading an article on some guy that set up a rage room, and basically it's like bats and sledgehammers and yada yada. You can destroy a room in there, and they thought their target market was going to be men. Nope. Their target market is like flocks of women.
Yeah.
Because anger, and this is what's led to what a lot of people refer to as toxic masculinity, because it's one of the few emotions that men were allowed to and encouraged to express. We were told to never shout and be angry and be a bitch and be yelled, and they were like, well, it's manly, you got to be tough and stand up for yourself and your family and this stuff. So yeah, I'm not defending toxic masculinity. I'm just saying, if you're told all your life you got to behave a certain way, it's going to come out badly.
One way or the other. So the only thing I'm thinking is that upcoming trade shows, maybe we want to see if there's a rage room area.
I love it.
Guys can come.
That sounds like a Saturday night activity.
Yeah, you had to find out. Is there one in Tacoma or by Tacoma?
I don't know. You guys keep talking. I'm going to find out. Well, the next show is actually Groomed. Are you going to Groomed?
I am not.
But I'm going to search Atlanta, and
there's definitely one in Atlanta, because Atlanta is big enough.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's funny you say rage room. So we just had a staff meeting, and I wanted everyone's input. And we always try and do things throughout the year as a team. Like we had a tie-dye party and we've done pumpkin carving, and it's not mandatory, it's all voluntary. So I'm like, what are some other things you'd like us to look into, especially because we can get a group rate being as big as we are. And they had said an escape room, and then the second one was a read room. So I'm like, I'll take a look.
In Atlanta, I just stopped counting. I just did a Google search. I've stopped counting at 10 rage rooms.
That's amazing.
So I'm now going to search Tacoma because that's the show afterwards.
There's definitely one. I just want to see where this place is in relation to Hotel Marino. But Brainiacs, Escape Rooms, Tacoma. Oh, there we go. There's the address. Hotel Marino. It's a 4-minute drive.
Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
So we now have plans for Tacoma.
I like it.
I mean, it's a 22-minute walk. It's too far to walk, but it's a 4-minute drive.
Okay. So if anybody wants to join us,
Please do.
Please do.
Oh my God. Sorry, I went off on the tangent alert on how men and women process things differently and how we repress differently. But
I think it's important. It's something like none of this is talked about, right? None of this, the grieving friendships and how women repress and men repress, and worse with men. Like you said, they're really, it's not acceptable to go ahead and,
no,
show emotions and stuff like that.
And let me tell you, there's something about a man crying where if it's like, I see a man cry where it's real raw, like pain, I start crying. I lose up because I know with how they've been reared, the amount of pain they have to be in for me to see that, even if it's in like a play, like it's a play or on TV and I see it and I just lose all my shit immediately, all of my shit immediately.
Okay. So then there's the other scenario that's going on right now is that, in all honesty, especially those in the United States, which is where the bulk of our listeners are. We know where our listeners are, by the way. The bulk of them are in the United States. And we have a couple weird places. We have somebody in Thailand and some like weird countries that
I love it.
So countries are weird. What's a weird country, Mary?
Okay, it's not one that you would think we would have a listener in.
Rude.
But we do. And you know what? Hello to those people. But, oh God, where was I going with that?
I don't know, but it's almost time to hit a button.
Hit a button.
Yeah, gather your thoughts.
I know when I'm on the road grooming, I want to keep things rolling along. With a 9-foot clearance, Hanvey mobile grooming vans actually fit through most drive-thrus to make lunch and banking on the go a breeze. With their clean-running diesel engine getting up to 5 hours runtime per gallon, you're spending less time and money at the pump. Visit Hanvey.com today to configure the mobile grooming van of your dreams.
So
okay.
We're in a weird place right now.
We are in a weird place right now in which their country is very, very divided and nobody's budging on either side. Okay. And that can lead to tensions in the workplace. I work by myself. Chris works by herself. So we're not actually experiencing that. But how is that affecting? You have 3 locations.
Yeah. So the one location, I think everyone's about the same on what their views are. The other location was pretty divided. There wasn't much buzz. There was much respect for everybody. So I have to say that it wasn't, this view versus this view or anything like that. It was the people who had the same views spoke that when others weren't around. But obviously, how people feel. really my hardest part wasn't keeping it out of the salon, because like I don't ever want to get heated, but I don't want to take people's opinions and voices away. But it actually, the hardest part was everyone being friends with each other on Facebook, and the personal views that, so you can't unsee that, right? So when you walk in, you know what was posted the day before. So that actually is what you could see causing tension, because you knew how people felt. So it worked itself out. I kept tabs on it because, like I said, I want people to be able to speak, but I don't want to alienate anybody. And if it got out of hand, there would have been words and talks. But yeah, no, I think it was more people seeing on the personal side of what they're doing and bringing that in.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Here's
I
the thing.
didn't really think of that. Yeah, you can do everything you want to keep it out of the workplace. You can have a zero tolerance policy, but if there are friends on Facebook, you're gonna see what they post.
Yep.
And yeah. And they're allowed to do that.
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
my God.
So overall, how was that handled, though? I mean,
Very well. I mean, it wasn't ever, there was most certainly a mutual respect that each person felt their way that they did.
Okay.
I think that there was some underlying, I don't want to say animosity, but possibly animosity for other people's views, but it was never brought to a head.
okay.
Mhm.
Kept it out of the work.
Correct.
All right, and one thing too, I've only ever seen one class at a trade show where they addressed like mental health.
Mhm.
And I believe that was Brew Expo, and Jay Batista did a class on it. That was actually really good.
I've also done several classes on burnout where I discuss mental health and
Okay, but nothing specific with the whole.
anxiety. Yeah.
So, and I think we ought to see more classes like that at trade shows.
And I'm starting to build webinars too. So like I'm game, because the hard part with the trade shows and stuff is that so let's say any of the mental health, I know how Barkley does theirs. So they do like a demo, a miscellaneous, and a business class each hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know how you have 9 to 10, 11 to 12. So that's how they pick their classes. So, and a miscellaneous class is more like abstract or creative, cats. That would be more of a miscellaneous, from what I understand. So that would probably be more of a business class. And if you look at that, it's only one class every hour. There's not a lot of opportunities to hit all of these things. So I think webinars or any kind of, and I don't know if Angie's ever done like a mental health summit. That would be really cool.
Ooh, hold on. Okay, so you guys are going to send Angie a message.
But I would love to see more like the toxicity, like people-pleasing behaviors and the toxicity that it actually causes and the animosity that causes as well. So, because there's so many different aspects that we don't touch base on. But yes, I wish there were more mental health and not just general, the usual stuff you see, stuff like grieving, grieving. I started having for a little bit when you're in this industry for so long, how much have we had to grieve clients that we had for years that for whatever reason, and it's not that they passed away, they either chose somewhere else or maybe they were going through their own hardships. And then we have to work through that. What did we do wrong? And we didn't do anything wrong. We got to know their dogs. And then we grieve this client that even though they're still alive and with us, they're not our client anymore. I think that there's so much of that.
Especially when it seems like it comes out of the blue. Like I actually had that happen the other week, and it was almost like a breakup.
It is.
Because I groom their dogs, and now I recognize that house call is not for everyone, that for whatever reason, it's right in their home. And I completely get that. But I kind of feel like, tell me if that's the case, because then it's easier for me to go, okay, whatever. But I groomed their dogs and I got a thank you. The girls look wonderful. We're going with someone with a van from now on. It's been great knowing you. Kind of. It was a very polite text, but it was like, I felt like I was dumped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
we're in an emotional industry.
yeah. And logically, yeah, she mentioned the van. So I'm like, oh, okay. But if you'd been having thoughts like, do you need it on a different day? Do you need it on a different time? Is there a different place in the house you want me to set up? Like, is there, let me work with you, communicate. So when it's out of the blue, it's really wild.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I was muted again. And it is about time that if we stay on our hour mark track, it is almost time to hit the very last commercial break of the day. Okay.
With Evolution shears. And I like having good quality shears, but there's no need to pay either an arm or a leg to get fantastic quality shears here at Evolution Shears. No arms or legs required. Right, guys? Can we have our limbs back? Yeah, anyways. Sure.
All right, now, if I think back, I am pretty sure I did some sort of mental health summit back in the very beginning with Positive Ed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's probably got to be like 3-4 years.
Things can be updated.
I think things can be updated.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I have a class on grief that I need to update with this discussion because there's so much more that affects us that we don't recognize as grief. Mm-mm. And it then affects our work because it goes into the salon and it affects how we look at people. And by the way, Denise, when you said that thing, and Mary and I both laughed, like when you said, it was just, I looked at her and got annoyed. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing at the, oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. I've been there 100% when you get to that stage with someone and you don't always know why. I'm glad you knew why, but sometimes it's just, you don't like a person and their breathing starts to really piss you off.
There's a couple of people that honestly, and I'm very stoic. You're not going to see emotion on my face. Okay. But there are just like some people that if they just walk in the room, I'm like, I actually need to leave. I can't do it. You know what? That's okay. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I am okay with that. So if you see me and you think, oh God, she's here, and you're going to walk away, I'm okay with that. I really am. But I'm pretty sure I've done it to other people too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. No, and people don't talk that way, right? Like once again, talking about things that are repressed, like that's not proper to say that if you look at somebody, you just get frustrated and you don't like them, right? You're like, that's something that's not normal, but we all feel it. So it's okay to name it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I have to go to her and tell her. I think I did because I can get away with it with her, but if it was anyone else, I think I've realized and I said it in a very polite way. It was, if you've noticed that I've been getting short with you really easy, I think that this is the reason why. So like I did tell her that, and then I think later on after we got over it, I'm like, yeah, you just annoyed me every time I looked at you. And then she lauged because,
because you worked it out because you didn't repress it and you worked it out.
Mm-hmm. And really that's my growth. Normally I would sit on that for months. The fact that I handled it in less than 2 weeks is absolutely huge for me.
Well, and the fact that you identified what it was, because I think that's the problem, and that's why so many, even business and working relationships fail and don't work out, because the other person does something and we feel disrespected at the time, but because we're used to minimizing our emotions, we try to ignore it and be like, that shouldn't bother me. So then when we're trying to go, what changed? Why is this person pissing me off now all of a sudden?
Right.
We don't even realize. So realizing what the problem was is the first step, and then addressing it is huge.
It's a shift. It's a shift in ourselves too. So we typically don't notice the shift in ourselves as easily as we do in others.
So see, Denise, you leveled up.
I did. I'm very, this whole has, so, and like Mary said, don't ever feel like, oh, poor pity us, because honestly, the losses help with growth as well. And if I wasn't growing, I would also still be in this rut of, I wouldn't be happy with this person, because it was starting to turn into that. And I addressed it. So yeah, no, this is what I'm working towards. And you're going to lose people as you work on yourself.
And you know what? And that's normal. And honestly, a lot of times it's when you're working on yourself, you're going to get a new core group of people. That's normal.
Yeah. But no one talks about that though. Everyone makes it sound like you should have a best friend for life and you should have all these things. We don't ever talk about friendship as a cycle. Yeah. And that we're going to outgrow each other, and not even necessarily us outgrow our friends, but they can outgrow us and leave us behind, like into their world. So we don't talk about cycles in friendships, but I've learned, and I think I never.
Really good workshop.
Yeah.
You two should do that.
Ooh.
We'll talk.
Okay. Sounds good.
Huh.
Yeah. No, and I've noticed like getting comfortable, like with Mary and with you, Chris, I'm starting to see like I shouldn't be ashamed of who I am. You guys were fine with me saying, oh my gosh, and you laughed because you also understood.
Yeah.
When I looked at them, I didn't like them, and I'm finding people who are okay with me being blunt like that. So as I'm growing, I'm also gathering people in my circle that are more accepting of who I am, and I don't have to repress that.
And especially when you come from a something of a traumatic background, where you have either emotional or physical abuse in your background, you put up with so much more. It's horrible. And I joke all the time, like, because Cam does not put up with, like, we have similar backgrounds, but he is protective of me in certain ways, and he jokes that I have introduced him to some of the most horrible people he's ever met because I would excuse it and I would excuse the behavior. And he's one of those people that, like, if you say something negative to me once, or if you upset me once, you are dead to him. Dead to. Now you want to get in the bathtub. Get the hell out of there. Sorry. I put the garbage can, I forget if I was recording when I said that or not. I put the garbage can in the tub so he wouldn't get into it, and he just jumped into the no tub. But what the hell was I saying?
Oh, Cam.
Cam. So I joke now that it's been
Cam
50.
Like me?
What was that?
Cam like me?
You're on the fence. You're on the fence. You're on the fence, Mary. Honestly, the thing with Cam, that what he said about, is because we can both be very blunt. We've got that brothers in a past life energy going on, where he's like, I'm surprised. You're still friends and still doing the podcast. Okay. this has happened. But I joke that it took me well over 20 years longer to finally introduce him to people he approves of, that are good friends who treat me well. And I say, no, it just took me that long to start to recognize that level of decency.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, you're saying normal people are not going to know what the fuck I'm talking about. But like Denise is like, oh yeah, no, I 100% get it. Mary's like,
I get it.
Mary has a lower bullshit tolerance. And I think since you're a little bit older than me, you hit that low bullshit tolerance earlier.
Yeah, you know what it is? It is an age thing too, because as you age, that once you know not to stop taking, stop that bullshit, your tolerance becomes lower for it.
Mm-hmm. It does. Very much so. And I think every level, so like 30, I started coming into who I was. You couldn't pay me to go back to my 20s. But once I hit 40, I'm like, I was just telling this to somebody. I'm like, once you hit 40, you're just too old to give a shit. Like, you don't care.
But wait, how about this? 22 with the mentality of in your 40s.
I could do that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you have that.
Oh my God, go back to high school, kill me.
But if I could take a week in high school with the attitude I have now, think of how it would change the entire trajectory of my life. But I'm not even going to go there, and I'm not going to talk about it and entertain it, because what you realize when you get to a certain age and after you've lost a certain amount of friendships and gone through the grieving process is you can allow it to break you, or you can allow it to make you a better person. And all of the shit you go through on a daily basis makes us a better person. Just like all those horrible days where all the dogs are misbehaved and we have a horrible client interaction, all of that is going to make us a better groomer if we're able to recover and look back and learn from what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It makes us better people.
Okay. Anything else we want to add?
Oh, I wanted to add it's not the happiest note, but if at some point you notice the noisy toy went away. Did I mention my dog's an idiot? You ever give your dog like an empty plastic water bottle to chew on?
Yeah.
Like to play with? Yeah. Why does my dog go directly for the sharp bits to chew on? We almost stopped recording for a minute. I'm just letting people talk because I'm like, why is there blood? Why is there, oh my God, because he went directly and it stopped like immediately, but
all right. So
my dog's a dumbass. I love him to bits. He's not the brightest bulb. Okay, that's all right.
Okay.
I just sometimes like to explain to the people who are watching some of the odd things they see me do on camera. But all right, I think we tied this in because this affects the health of our grooming salon and our shop and the happiness of ourselves and our employees, and therefore the happiness and behavior of the dogs in our care.
Oh yeah.
Everything is
Trickle down.
connected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Denise, thank you so much. We appreciate
Thanks for having me.
Well, anytime you want to come on the show, just say, hey, I got a topic I want to talk about, and we're going to be like, okay.
Pretty much.
Okay.
I
love
I'm
it.
Not,
okay.
I'm not even, we're not kidding at all.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty, guys. Thank you again for coming on. Guys, be safe out there, and that includes emotionally set your boundaries. Safe travels. Well, that was fun, but now it's time to head home. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed chatting with you. If there are any topics you'd like us to discuss or guests you want to see join us on this crazy road trip of ours, let us know in the Traveling Groomers Facebook page. Don't forget to thank our sponsors. And see you next week, guys. Safe travels.